And so with that as a preview, it's my pleasure to move now immediately into the panel portion, and I will introduce each of our panelists individually as they begin their presentations. But to let you know, from Technological University Dublin, we have Sandra Thompson. From Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie, we have Dr. Jeanette Brunstein. And from California State University, Monterey Bay, we have Dr. Coren Sloan. And so it's my pleasure now to introduce Sandra Thompson, who is an experienced lecturer with a demonstrated history of working in the higher education industry with current academic research interests in the financial technology area. Sandra is skilled in management and cost accounting, tax accounting, income tax, financial accounting, external audit, and international financial reporting standards. But we at UCO have a special relationship with Sandra and Technological University Dublin, as well as many other great colleagues there. Sandra there at TU Dublin teaches and has been instrumental in TU Dublin's adoption and implementation of STLR. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Sandra to you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. From my experiences working with the UCO crew with STLR has been fantastic. And I suppose to tell you about why we wanted to bring STLR to TU Dublin is that there has been a shift in demand from an industry of what the skills of what our graduates needed. So if we look at the World Economic Forum, the 2020 report said that there was 10 emerging skills. 7 of those skills was employability skills, the soft skills. So we needed a way to ensure that our graduates can leave TU Dublin with those skills intact. And STLR allows us to do that through transformative learning. We met Jeff back in May 2018. So we have got great help. And like I would call my colleagues in TU Dublin colleagues, but I would also call my friends in UCO colleagues. So we have got a great working relationship, but I can really, I suppose, and it's what Patty and Professor Jeanette has been also saying, is that a lot of the skills that we are developing in our curriculum, we can put them in practice using STLR. Okay, so STLR will give them the skills so that they can really reflect on what they have learned within their curriculum, but will also give them the skills so that they can carry those lifelong learning skills into their workforce. A lot of the employability skills like teamwork, leadership, critical thinking, all those skills can be developed through transformative learning and through reflective practice. So I suppose to tell you where we are now, we have rolled it out to over 1,000 students, and we wanted to roll it out throughout the whole university, which is 28,000 students across 3 campuses in Dublin. We have developed an IT platform which will help us, and that went live in September 2020. So that is will act as an enabler for us to spread STLR across the university. I suppose one word of advice for us, what we have learned is that it's really important to have everybody around the table from the very beginning. When we went over to Oklahoma to see how STLR worked, we couldn't get over the fact that STLR isn't integrated in every part of the university over there. We went down basements into different rooms, and STLR is everywhere. And I think it was really important, that was a really important factor for us, that when we came back to Dublin, when we were going to implement it, we had IT around the table, we had finance, we had HR, which is human resource in Ireland, we had the president gave us really, he's the president of the campus. He gave us really huge support because he could see the benefit of it. And I think you need that top management support from the very beginning, as well as that we had student representatives. We had learning, teaching and assessment center advising us in the direction that we should be going with it. And I think it's important that it's pulled up from the students, that they see the benefit from the very beginning, and that's not just putting them in it. And we don't want students to see this as extra work, because they're already developing themselves from year 1 to year 4. STLR formally recognises their development, the holistic development of a student. I hope I haven't went too far on. Sorry, Jeff.
That's wonderful, Sandra. What we're going to do for each of our speakers is to allow attendees to type in some questions into the chat. And I think the best way that this panel will work is we may take a few immediately after each panelist presentation, but I'm assuming that we'll probably have the greatest number to kind of page through, if you will, at the end of all of the presentation. So if you have questions about Technological University Dublin's implementation of STLR, or questions for Sandra, please type them into the chat, as well as following our other panelists. So Sandra, please send UCO's best wishes back to TU Dublin and all of the great people that we've had the very wonderful pleasure to meet when TU Dublin was so gracious to bring a small group of us there to do the first round of STLR faculty training and so forth. So we were delighted to provide some Oklahoma welcoming when you were here, but we were just wonderful, and it was a delightful visit when we were there helping in the very early stages of your STLR launch.
I will, for sure, Jeff. Thank you.
Surely. Well, what we'll do now is move to our second panelist. Dr. Jeanette Brunstein is Provost for Undergraduate Education at Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie in Sao Paulo, Brazil. She's been a professor in Mackenzie University's College of Economics, Accounting, Business, and Marketing. And of particular note about Dr. Brunstein's research is her focus on sustainability and transformative learning. Jeanette has mentored numerous doctoral students as part of her duties and is a global advocate and ambassador for transformative learning. We also have a delightful connection with Jeanette because she spent a semester here, a fall semester in 2017, doing research about sustainability and how STLR is a part of what we do here to help inculcate a sustainability ethos among our students and our graduates. So we are delighted now to present Dr. Jeanette Brunstein.
Thank you very much for introducing me, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you all with people that are so interested in hard work in transform students' experiences in very meaningful educational experiences. As Jeff told, I'm Jeanette Brunstein. I'm from Brazil, São Paulo, and I have been working at Mackenzie Presbyterian University for around 15 years, studying critical reflection and transformative learning towards sustainability. And also, I'm coordinating research projects with federal furtherance to introduce TL and critical reflection in business school, and advising a lot of doctoral students and dissertations about transformative learning. And I have now a new position as a provost for undergraduate students. And I saw this as a huge opportunity to adopt STLR as a core educational policy in Brazil, since I was wonderful what I saw when I was at UCO. I would like, if you allowed me, to share some slides here. Okay. Are you seeing my presentation? Yep. Oh, thank you very much. Let me introduce Mackenzie. Mackenzie is a 150 years university with 3 campi, around 40,000 students in more than 1,000 professors, most of them with master and doctoral degree. And we have 37 undergraduate courses and 12 graduate programs. So we have a lot of research areas, economic, governance, culture, health, education, business, and a lot of undergraduate courses, philosophy, theology, business administration, engineer, journalism, and so on. And here are some pictures of the campus for you get an idea. 150 years university is our first library, very, very beautiful. And a lot of, but the first engineering building, so very American university, the same style with bricks, and his architecture more modern nowadays. And the most important thing I here with Jeff King in the fall 2017 to do my postdoctorate. And I had the opportunity to be part of the STLR training process with seeing what you are doing, the wonderful work with professors to introduce STLR. And here I'm working at UCO, very happy. I was very happy when I was there. And all the research turns out in a very important publication about organizing reflection to address collective dilemma and engaging students and professors with sustainable development in higher education. And it is important not just because researchers around the world are looking at what we've done, but there is scientific validation about the importance of transformative learning to transform a mindset. We are not doing this because we think this is important. We can validate scientifically what we are doing. So as Jeff told, I became a provost for undergraduate students education, and started to adopting STLR, what we called Mac STLR, our version of STLR program. First of all, we started creating a space for organizing reflection institutionally. And one of these initiatives was the implementation of reflexive meeting with faculty that happen once in a week. And these meetings are becoming very popular among the professors. We made a webinar with Jeff King, Nalina, Sandra, Thompson, Paul Dervan, and others in the semester opening to kick off the TL project institutionally. And it was very important because it gives us credibility to start the process, because around the world, there is people doing the same with very successful results. And I create work groups. We create a set of roundings of discussions with all academic staff to decide the core competences or tenets developed with these students. And we try to do this in a very bottom-up process as a collective construction. Because the professors have to identify themselves in the process of transformative learning. And we are now doing rounds of validation with specialists from inside and outside of the university, marketing representatives. So the professor decided what would be the core competences. We validated with specialists, and now we are validating with the market. So it's an ongoing process. And here, the webinar we did in the beginning of the semester. And what will be the next steps? We will start UCO STLR training. I hope this year yet, I don't know, but we will try. We start to writing our educational policy around TL. And I hope in the beginning of next year, we have our pilot experiences in entrepreneurship discipline that is transversal in UPM. So all students from engineer, journalism, and business school can live these experiences of what does STLR is. So thank you very much. We are in the beginning, but we are very, very excited about this experience.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thanks for the sharing the beautiful pictures, Jeanette. I will share a funny story about Jeanette's time here in UCO, and it's prompted because as I look out my window, the ice has literally drooped the branches down, and it may still be freezing outside. But one particular day, Jeanette, who was staying across the street from our campus, and she always walked over to campus to work. It was one of those very, very cold Oklahoma pre-winter days. And when Jeanette got here, she said to me, she thought she was going to die.
Yes, definitely. We don't have this climate in Brazil.
So we are very happy here in Oklahoma to see those lovely warm pictures that you showed of your campus, Jeanette. One of the things that you had mentioned, Jeanette, that came up were the reflexive meetings that you have with faculty there at UCO. Can you explain a little bit more about what occurs, how are the things that faculty talk about, what you're trying to elicit as a result of those reflexive conversations?
Yeah, this meeting is just, as I said, one space for reflection, because my idea is create a lot of spaces when professor can share ideas and improve their ability to teach and make students learn. So this particular reflexive meeting, we have always a theme that we chose before. We asked professor, what would you like to discuss? So active process in the classroom, motivation, what is the subject that we can see through the transformative learning lens. So we have around 2 meetings, one theoretical and one practical. And after this, we change the subject and theoretical and practical discussion. And I always send to them previously a paper to read or a video to discuss. And each meeting, we have more and more professors joining and sharing their experiences. And one thing that is important, we start just me and my staff leading these meetings. Now I invite other professors that we realize that are very transformative to share their experiences. Learning, based in problems, and how I do flip classroom. So we share the experiences that are already transformative and are ongoing in the campus to motivate others to try something different. But this is just one experience, and we are very excited to start the other one.
Yeah, thank you, Jeanette. Wonderful explanation. We have a Malaysian colleague who is with us today who has commented that the stellar type activities that are occurring there often result in faculty actively engaging because they really enjoy how this back and forth occurs with their students, and what the faculty then see in the students' own reflective writing. And so it sounds like very similar to what's happening there at Mackenzie University. Thank you for that comment, John. and welcome. What we'll do now then is move to our next panelist. And then, as I say, after our final panelist, then we'll have a little bit more time for questions and answers for those of you who are interested. So at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Assistant Professor Coren Sloan of Science Education in the Department of Biology and Chemistry in the College of Science at California State University, Monterey Bay. She earned a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry at Yale University and her PhD at the Scripps Research Institute. She's taught both high school science as well as undergraduate chemistry courses. Her focus at Cal State Monterey Bay is supporting lower division undergraduate student success in STEM and preparing future STEM teachers. So it's my very great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Coren Sloan.
Thank you, Jeff. That's fantastic as an introduction. It's so phenomenal to really think about what Sandra and Jeanette shared, because I think the strength that we recognize in STLR is the fact that it's an evidence-based practice. So the quality of the assessment and the thoughtful critique and analysis of the way STLR transforms student learning is part of what I think has drawn us at Monterey Bay to STLR as a practice. We're one of 23 campuses, but we're a fairly young campus. So in contrast to Jeanette's 150-year history, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary, but we're a growing campus. And one of the things that we've recognized is that there's a significant need to not only equip our students to successfully graduate, but to prepare them for the emerging workforce. And to that end, we think that the Student Transformative Learning Record holds significant potential for helping students to integrate and to synthesize their learning in a way that's meaningful for their future employers. The reason I think that they're able to do so is because this ongoing reflecting on their own evidence of learning, as well as their work to kind of integrate in the co-curricular activities that they do, really strongly aligns to the STLR tenet. So when we think about, say, for example, the service learning courses that our students participate in, the opportunity to then reflect on and integrate those with, say, for example, their research, creative, and scholarly activities is a really strong plus. It shows our students that each of the choices they make academically has value and really starts to invest in their human capital as something that can both solve community problems and emerge as leaders transforming the existing industries in our region. My primary interest specifically in STLR is thinking about the science, technology, engineering, and math, or the STEM teacher pathways. And one of the reasons that this is so compelling to me is that our teachers often are being interviewed by principals and being asked about what their value added is to the students. And so when we've had conversations with Jeff, one of the most striking pieces that have emerged has been the way in which students can articulate their understanding both of what they've learned and their ability to take that theory and then apply it in practice to make meaningful choices, to execute decisive leadership that really are reflective of the skills and knowledge that they attain through their studies. We were so impressed at the composure and the way in which the UCO students were able to articulate and really describe in great detail the experiences they had that position them to be culturally competent, to be thoughtful and reflective leaders, and really to be assets to anyone that was interviewing them. In fact, I think they end up becoming quite desirable. And so we're really excited about that potential for current teachers and staff. So these are individuals that are engaging in professional learning and want to really take the evidence-based practices and incorporate them into their classrooms. But we also see them for undergraduates who are in the midst of making decisions about their future career paths. And so being able to have an expansive portfolio of their knowledge and skills that are relevant to careers and that really equip them to be able to have engaging and deep conversations with future employers. And then actually for our K through 12 students, we're really excited about an emerging project with our expanded learning, which is our after school learning programs, where we're starting to think about ways in which we can engage even young students in thinking about the ways that their activities help to build their choices in terms of career pathways, but also their competency, something that builds their confidence and their sense of identity. And we're really excited about this project because we know that employers highly value critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. And we're confident that STLR is actually going to be able to develop those skills even for our very young students. And so with that, we're really thrilled to explore STLR as an opportunity to deepen reflection on our campus. I thought that Sandra said it really well. We see that every individual on our campus would benefit from engaging with STLR. And because our mission is our students, just like Jeanette said, we're thrilled to think about the potential that this represents for them to truly transform their learning. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff for any questions with great enthusiasm for the path ahead.
Thank you very much, Coren, and thanks for the wonderful pictures. What a great shot there in Monterey Bay. We are definitely appreciating that right now in frozen Oklahoma.
We understand. We would happily take some of your ice. It would be nice to have a little bit of snow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the items that you have mentioned relating or connecting even to the things that both Sandra and Jeanette have spoken about, it seems as though STLR has resonated. Here we've got the United States, Ireland, Brazil, but certainly a commonality among all of them is a desire in higher education to serve students and their learning and their ability to tell their own stories, to help a potential employer or a graduate school understand exactly why and how they know they have developed some leadership skills, for example, or would be able to work on a team with people who are different from them and who may frequently disagree with them. At this point, what I'd like to do is share a really, really wonderful story about one of our recent STLR. She's actually, I believe, still a student, but is already on the job market. She is someone who is an older returning adult student getting a graduate degree, but to help the people in attendance understand the difference that a student knowing about STLR, having those STLR engagements can make in the job interview process. This particular student is someone who applied for a position. She was the only female applying for the position among a total of 57 applicants. And the last we heard from her, she was one of the 2 finalists, but she had gone through 5 rounds of interviews in order to bubble to the top. And she said in every interview, in all of those talks with all of those hiring managers and others, that it was the specificity with which she was able to respond to the questions that she knew was the distinguishing feature that had been possible for advancing her to the next round. And when she was telling us this story, she said, and oh, by the way, that 5th round, that was a 4.5-hour interview around a conference table with 30 people. So this was an organization that was investing heavily in making the right decision because the position was going to be so strategically valuable in what the organization wanted to accomplish. And to hear that it was one of our students who literally told us that it was her stellar experiences and her ability to articulate those that had meant she went from being one of 57 to being one of the two finalists, and this all being only the lone female in the original pool of 57. So it's a good story because it illustrates from the student's perspective how they value the experiences they get in their stellar engagements, whether those engagements might be in the classroom or outside of class at stellar events or doing stellar projects such as the film. And hearing in the students' own words was very gratifying, and certainly we hope to hear many more of those kinds of stories. So I'm noticing that one thing where Sandra might be able to help us in a response concerns how is starting a new program during this pandemic age. How do you get faculty buy-in across campus in the midst of that, as you're also beginning Stellar? Has the pandemic created any, insurmountable obstacles that you've had to deal with?
No, Jeff, it hasn't created any obstacles, but it has created opportunities for us. A lot of the competencies that we tag are health and well-being and research and innovation and teamwork and leadership. And one of the competencies that we don't get exposure much to our students is global cultural competence. Through online learning, that has removed some obstacles, and we are now creating more opportunities for the global cultural competence for students than we have ever had. As well as that, staff want to be innovative in their teaching because the student engagement is harder to get when they're teaching remotely. So they're being a little bit more innovative in their teaching and learning, reflective practice, because we're always bringing in reflective practice in Stellar. We're encouraging that now when they're changing assessments to meet the learning outcomes through remote teaching and remote assessments. We're asking them, well, can you put reflective practice into that assessment? So it hasn't been an obstacle. It has created opportunities for us. And it's also really important when lecturers and staff are changing their assessments and changing their delivery in the challenges that COVID is providing us, they're open to new ways, and it kind of opens up their mind as to what am I doing, why am I doing it, what is the learning outcomes I want to reach here, and that kind of gives them a kind of a new fuel, a new innovation, a new way of thinking, and encourages change. So it's definitely not an obstacle. You grab the opportunities when you can get them.
Perfect, thank you. Real quickly, because there has been an inquiry, the platforms on which Stellar has been adopted across multiple institutions have been Moodle as a learning management system, such as is in place there at TU Dublin and also at Mackenzie University. But then we have seen also Blackboard implementations, Desire to Learn, which is our own, but there are other universities also considering Stellar on that platform, and then Canvas, which is a very widely in use learning management system here in the US. So it's important to note that one of the things we did in designing and building Stellar was to make it platform agnostic as well as scalable and replicable. And then another tenet, if you will, that we kept in mind in the building of Stellar was that we wanted to try and take the least expensive route. And technologically, that meant adapting the learning management system, which all universities already have, makes complete sense. A question for you, Jeanette, and this one comes from a Malaysian colleague at Methodist College, Kuala Lumpur. She's curious to find out about whether Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie, as also an institution with faith-based roots, whether that has been a consideration in your adoption of Stellar.
Thank you for asking me. Yeah, this gives me opportunity to tell a little bit about this story. When Mackenzie is a Presbyterian university, and the faith is very, very important. Confessionality is in our mission, in our vision of the university. And one of the main concerns when we started to implement Stellar was about mostly for the more conservative and orthodox part of the Presbyterian, that maybe a transformative learning theory would have something against the faith, Presbyterian faith. And I changed ideas with Jeff how we could deal with this situation. We changed a lot of the ideas. He write to me and send me materials to help me, because there is a lot of preoccupation, most of all because I'm Jew and I'm provost that is Jew, and sometimes you could have some confusion, but quickly we could explain that this is a misconception. TL is a false idea that can help to introduce confessionality in the process, because it's not the religion but the goodwill to do the good things to the environment, how we make it more concrete with Stellar projects. So now they are very excited to see how confessionality can cross the campus through the discipline in the activities or events that can help students to do the best for the environment, for the society. And I believe we are going very well, and we made a survey between all professors to ask them if they realize that is something wrong with transformative learning and confessionality, and the 99% of the professors saw a very connection between the principles of the theory and the faith. So we are very glad that it helped. And I think it will be a very great opportunity to make confessionality not a discipline, an idea, but a transformative experience.
Thanks very much, Jeanette, for that great explanation. A couple questions here for you, probably best positioned, Sandra, to answer these. And one has to do with whether what TU Dublin is doing with Stellar might be contributing to transforming the curriculum or having any changes in either content or process, for example, and what's going on in the classes there. And the second question is, in your description of implementing Stellar, you spoke so well about getting such a broad range of stakeholders around the table. And so people are interested, how exactly did you pull that off?
Just to answer your first question, the staff, we have found that when staff have Stellar tagged a continuous assessment, they come around and they say, okay, I enjoyed Stellar tagging that assessment. I'm going to bring Stellar into my next module. So it's a kind of like a domino effect. And then we have also found that when one staff member of a program Stellar tags a module, another staff member within that program Stellar tags a module, because the other staff member has told them of a positive experience. How it has changed the curriculum is that we have found that when staff is grading the reflective artifact that students have submitted for Stellar, they have really enjoyed reading the students' reflective piece. And we have several staff members coming to us to say, this is the first time I've got so much out of students, because they have redesigned the curricula, not the curriculum, sorry, the content within that module. Up until that, a lot of staff have said, I was just running, trying to cover content. It wasn't making any sense. I had an indicative syllabus that I was trying to get covered, but I wasn't covering it. I was only skimming it. So what they have said is that they have revised their content to ensure students are getting the better teaching and learning and assessments strategies, policies and procedures that they want to develop for the students, so that they can develop these transformative learning experiences. And even if it is only like simply getting a guest lecturer in, to speak to the students about practicalities of work-life balance and health and well-being development and mental health for the students. If they're getting that guest lecturer in, they have student engagement in that hour. And if they reflect on that experience within their curriculum or within a continuous assessment, well, then that's a win-win for their staff. I think for us to enable staff to bring STLR on board, we have to be there behind them to help them to bring these guest lecturers in and to facilitate the reflective artifact that the students want to submit after attending those transformative learning experiences. And just to answer your second question, Jeff, we came back, and I do have to say, UCO and TU Dublin have a very similar student cohort. Our retention rates were very similar to UCO, and our GPAs were very similar as well. Our students are working part-time to fund their education as well. So a lot of similarities in our student cohort. But when we came back from UCO in May 2008, myself and my colleague Paul Devon went into a big boardroom with senior management, and we pitched STLR. Now, our sweaty palms and everything, we were very nervous, but they absolutely loved it. And around that table were all senior management on campus. And when we came out, we knew that we had them because they could see the benefits of it. Now, in our pitch to them, we outlined the increased retention rates that UCO had experienced. We outlined the increased GPA that UCO had experienced, and we also outlined that we had very similar student cohorts. When we came back from our summer break in September, senior management had agreed to give myself and my colleague Paul the time to develop an action plan, a budget and the resources to go live with a pilot in January 2019. During that 4 to 5 months from September to January, we briefed every stakeholder in the campus to ensure everybody knew what was happening with the initiative. And from January 2019 onwards, then we had everybody around the table to ensure that we could proceed with the pilot. I hope that answers your question, Jim.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sandra. I can comment that TU Dublin's implementation of STLR included, among many things, this beautiful timeline that Sandra and colleagues had developed. You can tell that project management was in place. It was just delightful to see all of that and to work with our colleagues there in the implementation of STLR. As I'm seeing the questions, one thing I think at this point would be good to just emphasize from the standpoint of STLR in general, that regards STLR training for faculty and staff. I know in Ireland, the UK, staff means faculty. In the US, faculty and staff means basically everybody on campus pretty much, and then administration is the third unit. But STLR training occurs for faculty and staff so that they know how to assess the student reflective artifacts and so they know how to use the STLR rubrics to assess those artifacts at a particular level of achievement. And the STLR training also includes an extremely important component, which is helping faculty and staff understand how to create good reflective prompts so that you are much more likely to elicit the information that you want to find out from the students. So the a final question, maybe just to have each of our panelists weigh in on, would be if you can imagine your institution 5 years in the future and its stellar implementation, and what might be your hopes for what would be the outcomes or what would be accomplished over that span of 5 years. And so, Dr. Sloan, I'll start with you for that one.
I think that when I think forward in terms of 5 years, California needs 1.4 million STEM workers in order to meet our needs to drive industry. And so one of the things that I hope 5 years from now is that CSUMB has students who are using Stellar in their interviewing process with employers, that we're helping students both recognize that those are career pathways that are a great fit for them, and that in addition to that, they're able to articulate to their employers their suitability and their fit for those jobs, knowing that they have the knowledge and skills because of their education at CSUMB, that they are able to articulate those because of Stellar. So that's what I hope in the next 5 years.
Great, thank you. Jeanette, same question for you.
I make echo to what Coren just said. I hope we are in the very beginning, but it's very promising, and I hope to see in my university the same kind of speech that we saw in your film, that professors, directors, students talking about Stellar and how important it is, and the employees recognizing this effort, and we maybe can be reference model in Brazil to transformative learning. And I hope this network here between our different countries can be strength, and we can change a lot of experiences and make it more universal. So let's see where we can achieve.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeanette. And so finally, Sandra, what might be your thoughts on that?
Okay. I want TU Dublin to be known that a student will leave with an academic transcript, but also a transformative learning transcript, showing that the employers that our graduates have been holistically developed, not just academically developed, both holistically and academically. I think it's really important for us as higher education providers that we are developing a student with all-round skills, not just in a discipline.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thanks to all of our panelists. We know that it is really early for you, Coren. Thank you, on the West Coast of the US. And I know it's much later for you, Sandra. And attendees, my goodness, thanks to our attendee from Japan, where it's now 1 a.m. For hanging in there with us. But thanks in particular to all of those who attended. We're absolutely delighted to share about Stellar. And one of the greatest results of Stellar for us here at UCO has been coming to know wonderful colleagues in the United Arab Emirates, in South Africa, in New Zealand, in Australia, in many, many places around the world. And the importance of the thing that draws everyone to the same goal is helping our students succeed. So we appreciate everyone's attendance. We appreciate very much our panelists, and thanks to Mark Walvard here at Stellar at UCO for managing the chat and helping in so many ways with this. We will make this film available on a publicly accessible site, And because I believe I know we have all of the respondents' emails, we will email you as soon as we get that up at the publicly available site, and are happy for you to share it among your colleagues and use it however you might see fit. So with that, we bid you a very, very fond good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye all.